Samson. And the reason I've chosen Samson, I'm fascinated how powerful men get seduced by women. And they end up just absolutely losing everything. And I just don't understand what it is that they would do that for the sake of a woman. But anyhow, it's nothing to do with that, because as I got into it, God took that away. But by then, I was into Judges. Studying the Bible has helped me to see Jesus in all the biblical books. And I hope my interpretation of Samson's story in Judges will reveal a better understanding of Jesus and his relationship with us, and how God's parallels and patterns reveal his extraordinary, miraculous communication with us. Judges is about freedom fighters. Samson was Israel's hope to protect them from the Philistines. And Jesus' disciples saw him as a freedom fighter, someone sent to rescue Israel from the Romans. How wrong we can be. In previous chapters in Judges, we see how foreign invasions were sent by God to challenge Israel's disobedience. Heroes like Gideon, Deborah, and other judges, they did not protect Israel's survival, but it was the unfailing love of God who used imperfect characters to lead the country. Yeah? Samson's story reveals many deep spiritual layers that point to the life of Jesus. Samson, for an example, was set apart from birth by God. He was to become a Nazarene, holy or separate. And as such, he would never have a razor touch his head. So when he was born, the angel told his parents precisely how they should bring him up. And I've gone and followed the who, what, whys, and hows. Who was Samson? As we go through the life of Samson, I hope to show the amazing links and comparisons with Jesus' life. And it's too much of a coincidence how they parallel. And the Bible cannot be any other but written by a living God. And I think that's the evidence we get when we start to look at how people's lives parallel. So we'll start by a childless couple visited by the angel of the Lord gave birth to a son, Samson. Samson's father name is Manoah, which means peace or rest. Our Heavenly Father provided peace between himself and a man through Jesus. So through Samson's father's name, we can see how God begins to plan our salvation. So peace and rest. So he used Manoah. He was already groomed to be the father of Samson. Samson was set apart from birth by God. His very name means the light. God intended Samson for great things and gave him amazing strength and vigor. He was a judge of Israel. So that's who he was. What was he? Great fighter. Hero against the Philistines. Physically excelled, but a flawed character. He was self-indulgent and weak and pitifully vulnerable to women. He was a womanizer who was married once, visited a prostitute, and loved another who betrayed him. Now, how does Samson's story fit with the remarkable resemblances and patterns within Jesus' life? When it was told, possibly 1,045 years ago, before Christ. So, that's the miracle in itself. So we'll look at the parallels and patterns. Samson's mother was told of his birth by an angel of the Lord. She then told her husband, as did Mary. The angel that spoke of Samson's birth was God's messenger. Both angels had similar names or titles. I do suspect that the angel who came to Samson's mother was actually Jesus, because when she asked him what his name was, she said, "Wonderful." That's all he said, "Wonderful." And Jesus obviously is Wonderful Counselor. And Jesus said, "I am." So very similar types of titles. Samson's mother had faith that God was pleased with her and her husband, as did Mary and Joseph. It was also favoured by God. And Samson means the light, and Jesus, who is the light of the world. Jesus and Samson sent to deliver their people, one from physical oppression and Jesus from spiritual oppression. Both were Nazarenes, which means separate or holy. Both spoke in riddles and parables, and both chose Gentile brides. Now, Samson's, isn't it? Samson's first wife from Tamar was from Tamar. And this represents the relationship between mankind and God. Her story begins with Samson desiring and chasing her, just as Jesus has since the fall in the Garden of Eden pursues us. She was a woman who was not one of her own race, of his own race and culture, totally alien to Samson's parents. The Son of God, Jesus, left everything behind in heaven so that he could come down to be with us, his treasured creation. That's amazing. Samson went to a prostitute from the town of Gaza, which means fierce enemy. She is symbolic of the hostility that Jesus encountered when he came to his own people and they rejected him. The third woman is Delilah. Even with all her betrayals, she is Samson's true love, representing a picture of Christ's love for his bride, us, whatever we do. Delilah tempts Samson 3 times. Jesus is tempted 3 times in the desert by Satan. Delilah is the ultimate cause of his death. Like Jesus, Samson was displayed and mocked in a religious forum and died a crushing death for the sons of his people, of the people. Both were betrayed by a friend. Betrayers were offered silver. Samson's eyes were put out. Jesus was blindfolded. Samson and Jesus mocked, ridiculed, derided. And at the end of their life, both cried out to God. Both stretched their arms out before death, one towards the pillars and one on the cross. In death, they defeated their enemies. Samson slew 3,000 people before he died, and at Pentecost, 3,000 were also slain in the Spirit. Samson and Jesus' body both taken care of by those who loved them and cared for them. Amazingly, all this is shown through a few chapters in the book of Judges, written hundreds and hundreds of years before Christ, as I've said. There's no other rational answer except to say the Bible is supernatural and ordered, and when we care enough to pull back the veil, we are stunned into awesome worship of our living, eternal God.